The time I accidentally sent my wildest sex to my boss, who turned out to be way too chill about it. It all started on a dull Tuesday morning. I was halfway through my third coffee, still waking up, when I got a text from this guy I'd been talking to on a dating app. Let's call him Jake. He was hot, funny, and our conversations had recently shifted into, let's say, more adventurous territory. So there I was, sitting at my desk pretending to work when Jake sent me this steamy message. Your turn. Show me what you've got. Challenge accepted. I typed out the filthiest message I've ever written. I'm talking about details that could make 50 Shades of Grey look like a children's bedtime story. Things like spanking you into next week and using whipped cream as a weapon of mass seduction. Oh, and there was a bit in there about making furniture jealous. I was really proud of that one. Feeling like an erotic Hemingway, I hit send with zero hesitation. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw the text preview. We need to talk. Immediately. Mr. Anderson. Now, if you think reading that name caused my soul to leave my body, you'd be correct. Mr. Anderson wasn't Jake. Mr. Anderson was my boss, a 50-something man with a bald head so shiny you could probably see your reflection in it, and a voice that sounded like a dying lawnmower. My heart sank as I unlocked my phone and saw my masterpiece in its entirety, sitting right there in Mr. Anderson's inbox. I almost threw my phone out the window. Before I could even process what had happened, my office phone rang. Tim, my office, now. Walking down the hall, I could feel every pair of eyes on me, as if they somehow knew I had just written a literary porno and sent it to the last person on earth I'd ever want to see it. I stepped into his office. He was sitting there, leaning back in his chair, holding his phone. And let me tell you, his face was impossible to read. Was he mad? Was he amused? Was he about to fire me? He looked up at me and said, "Sit." So I sat, my palms sweating so much I could have watered a small garden. After a long, excruciating silence, he finally spoke. "I just want to confirm, this message was not meant for me." "Absolutely not," I blurted out, my voice cracking like a teenager. He nodded slowly, scrolling through the text with what I can only describe as too much focus. Then he set his phone down, crossed his arms, and said, "Well, you're certainly creative." I froze. Was that a compliment, a joke, a subtle threat? "I'll admit," he continued, "you've got a talent for imagery. But next time, triple-check your recipients before sending that kind of thing. Also, maybe don't include the phrase, turning you into a human pancake, in any professional context." At this point, my face was redder than a fire truck. All I could do was mumble an apology and pray for the earth to swallow me whole. To my shock, he waved it off with a chuckle. "Relax, Tim. You're not fired. Just be more careful. And maybe take some of this creative energy and put it into the Q4 presentation, yeah?" I nodded, stammered a thank you, and bolted out of there so fast I almost ran into the door. For weeks after that, every time I saw Mr. Anderson, I half expected him to bring it up. But he never did, except once during a team meeting when he casually said, "Let's whip up something fun for this project. Though maybe not that fun, right, Tim?" And then he winked. I've never been the same since.